Hello, my name is Sławek. I recently created a video about 5 ways to debug in fastai, but since posting it, I learned about 3 other ways I hadn't known about. So I'm doing this as a follow-up to tell you what the other ways are out there and what are the pros and cons and how to use them. First thing I'll show you is the debugger extension within JupyterLab. That's something that was released recently. To install it, you need to run 2 commands. You need to first install the extension itself and then install this Zeus Python kernel. After that, you can run JupyterLab. In settings, if you have extension manager enabled, you will see a button here for extension manager, and you should see the JupyterLab debugger up here. After we have that, we need to first set the xpython kernel. That's the new kernel we installed, and there's a toggle here to enable debugger, so I'm turning it on. After I do that, I have an option to set breakpoints. After I set a breakpoint and run the code, it will stop here and I can open the debugger window. So it shows me local variables, call stack, breakpoints, the code I'm at, and simple commands to continue step in, step out. So I can do the step, I can see the variable value updates. So nothing special, pretty similar to what we've seen from Pixie Dust, but in a bit more visual form. I don't see a way to evaluate my own expressions here. Maybe it is hidden somewhere, but I haven't found it. So now I want to see what happens if I step into fastai code. So again, to import this, again I want to stop at the breakpoint here. After I've done the import from fastai, I see a lot of things here in my global scope. That's because we imported star, but you can still find the what is it? For example, DLS variable that we defined. Right here. If you want to avoid having so much stuff in the variables, you could write it, like grab all this cell inside the function, and then you will only see things local to the function definition. But now what I want to do is step inside the fastai code. So I'll do step in. So now I cannot see this code here anymore because that's only my notebook. It shows me the Python file here in the bottom right. It doesn't scroll to the line I'm at automatically, so I need to find it. And now I can continue stepping, and now I see the variables from this function. So I can check that my architecture in this case is ResNet 34 and so on. If you want to read it in a larger window, you can click this open in the main area button, and now I have it here. I again need to scroll all the way down, but now I can click through it. So this looks pretty cool. However, I've had issues training the model in this xpython kernel, because when I run fine-tune, it fails with an exception, and it doesn't fail when I do it in the normal Python, Conda Python kernel with all the libraries being the same. So I don't know why this. If someone can figure it out, please let me know. So maybe there's an easy fix, or maybe this kernel is different and you will have more issues. I'm not sure. Let's move to something else. Now I will open my local Visual Studio Code instance. So previously I showed you that you can run your local local Python with fastai 2 checked out, and you can step through it on your local machine. But now what I will do is connect my Visual Studio Code to the remote server that runs Jupyter in Google Cloud. So the same Jupyter I just showed you before. To do that, first you need to call this specify local or remote Jupyter server for connections. Okay, and in here I have it already configured. So you just put the server and the port number of your Jupyter instance. Even though here it says localhost, that's actually the Google Cloud server, but I have port tunneling set up, so my port 8080 is tunneled to the Google Cloud server. And you need to have authentication enabled in your Jupyter, so I just put a token into my Jupyter configuration, and then I have the token here in the URL. After I do that, I'm gonna open command palette, and there is a create new blank Jupyter notebook. So the Visual Studio actually has a Jupyter notebook built in, and you can use similar functionalities as in the web-based Jupyter. So you can see up here that it's connected to the server I specified before. This is the kernel I want to use, Python 3. And now, for example, I can import Torch, and I see that CUDA is available. So even though I don't have a local NVIDIA GPU here, it will use the one from the server I connected to. So let me copy some more code. And you see now it runs the training inside the Visual Studio. While this runs, I will show you a bit about the setup here. So I followed this article on the Visual Studio website. It shows you some examples of what the Visual Studio can do. You can, have charts, and this is the bit I showed you about connecting to the remote server. I will get back to debugging soon, but let's see if this finished. Okay, and now I can do show results, and now you see my result gets plotted inside the Visual Studio here. Also, if you hover over a function, it will show you the help for that function or documentation for a class. You can use all the IntelliSense auto-completion. So this is pretty powerful. Now, as far as debugging goes, so the page I was just showing you says that to debug it, you need to first export it to a Python file. So I tried that, and what happens is I press this, it creates a script version of my notebook. Need to save it. And now every cell has this run debug and run above, so if I run it, it will open a small window here. I want to run it in Python 3 again. And now if I want to run to the breakpoint, it shows me an error which says debugging while attached to a remote server is not currently supported. So yeah, you are not able to do it for now. Maybe they will change it, it would be cool. But anyway, like, this is not much different from generating a script file yourself and debugging it. But it would be cool if it worked directly from the VS Code notebook. The coolest would be if it worked directly from here, right? But we have to wait and see if they implement it at some point. And now the final thing I want to show you, let's go back here, is something called the code server. It allows you to run Visual Studio Code remotely on a server and then interact with it in a browser window. So to get that working, I downloaded the code server from GitHub to my Google Cloud server. I have it right here, and now I can run it. By specifying a port it will listen at, and it shows me the password I should use to log in into the service. And now if I go back to my browser, I can connect with the same port as before. Again, I'm using port forwarding on my PC. I'm logging in with the password I got. Okay, and this is a Visual Studio Code instance running on my remote server that I'm viewing in a browser, and it has pretty much all the same functionalities as you would have running it locally. You can again create some short script that uses fastai, and you can run it. So I first printed out that the CUDA is in fact available, so it uses my GPU. Okay, so it took again 19 seconds, so the same time as I've done it with the remote connection of to the Jupyter. And now I can run it in debugger. Okay, so it should stop at my breakpoint, and I can step into it. Even though this is inside the browser, the keyboard shortcuts work, so I can just do F10 to move to the next line, and now I have all the variables I can inspect. So this is very similar to what I showed you running the local code on my PC, but now it actually uses the code on the server and uses the GPU on the server. So why would you use that? Probably if you want to debug something that needs to use GPU, like if you have a bug in your trading code, or you just want to do it remotely from a computer you don't have your development environment set up on. So in cases like that, this would be useful. It requires a bit more setup because you actually need to, you know, install the server and run the server, and you need to be able to open port or SSH and forward the port. So it's definitely more involved, but after you get that working, it's pretty sweet. So there you have it. 3 other ways to try to debug and use the fastai code. I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers!